Hi, everybody. This is Rob Packard from Medical Device Academy. Today's video, live streaming, is going to explain how I go about actually finding the regulatory pathway for a device, and specific to the US market. We're not talking about other markets because it'd be a completely different process for the regulatory pathway for those markets. And I'm going to share my screen here. I need to present. There we go. So what I'm showing on my screen here is the FDA.gov website. In the thumbnail that we were showing for this video, I had already shown a screen capture of a specific device classification. And the one I picked was a dental instrument. So, you know, the little picks that you put in the mouth, or if you had a mirror or something like that, they have different dental instruments that you use when you go to the dental office, and they're clean and they're disinfected, but they're reusable stainless steel medical devices. And so I thought I'd show people as an example how I go about finding that information. And because not everybody has all the same web pages I have bookmarked on their computer, I'm going to show you how you find the pages and navigate the FDA website. So the way we're going to start is we start at FDA.gov. So everybody should be able to type in FDA.gov, and it takes you to the FDA homepage, which changes fairly frequently. And then you go to the menu section on the top right-hand corner of the website right here, where I just made it highlight. Click on that. And it talks about the different, it has it broken up into sections. The section we want is medical devices specifically. So we click on that link. And then this is the medical device homepage for the FDA. It talks about a lot of different things, but you scroll down on the page and it takes you to databases. So you could go straight to the product code classification database, but the one I keep hyperlinked on my bookmarks is the all medical device databases, because I use all of them. So we're going to click on that one. And this is the page that I use all the time. And you can see recently, what have I looked at? Registration. I've looked at TPLC, registration listing, recognized consensus standards, recalls, product classification, 510Ks, de novo, 21 CFR. So I've looked at all of those recently from this browser. And that happens on a regular basis. So the section we're going to be specifically interested in is product classification. We're going to go there. And there are two types of searches you can do when you're trying to find out what is our device classification? What is the pathway? One search is a quick search. So that's what it's set up for right now. The other type of search is an advanced search. We're going to try both, because you get more results with the quick search than you do with the advanced search, but sometimes more is just more and makes it harder. So we're going to try here dental instruments. Okay, so it gave us 18 results. And if you want to see all of them, you have to, they unfortunately have changed their settings a little bit, and they don't have the ability to show more than 10 results. So you have to click on the number 2 to see the other page. So you can see if you had a lot of results, this might be more difficult. But the one we were looking for is this dental hand instruments right here. And that's what I showed, at least the top half of that was the screen capture in the thumbnail for this video. And you can see from this, the review, and you should be aware of what these different things are. So I'll go through each one and explain it. The first one gives you the name of the device. The second one gives you a description of the regulation, which is usually just a rewording of the first line. The third one is kind of important information, because it tells you who reviews this as a panel at the FDA and the medical specialty. Usually these are the same. In some cases, they're different. So usually the medical specialty might be a subgroup of the review panel. And then we have the product code. That 3-letter product code is the key code that determines what the classification is for your device and what the submission type is. In this particular case, this whole page is dedicated to DZN, and it's a 510K exempt device, so that means you don't have to submit a 510K for these dental hand instruments. Here's the regulation that describes those devices in more detail. it says they're class 1 devices, so they don't need design controls. But down here where it asks if they're GMP exempt, they're not. They're not a GMP exempt. So you still have to have a quality system and have a DMR and follow the quality system requirements except for design controls, which is limited to class 2 devices, except for a few devices that are listed in the regulation. So that gives you the overall. And then down below, they give you any specific standards that are applicable to this device. In this case, ISO 18556 is applicable, and it's specific to intraoral spatulas. I never realized they had a standard just for intraoral spatulas, but they do, and they give you the number, and it's recognized by the FDA. So that was fairly simple. But let's go back for a moment to the search page that we were originally on, where it gave us the option of a quick search or an advanced search, and try the same approach. But we know that it's dental because I want a dental hand instrument, so I'm going to do that. And I'm guessing that this one is probably a class 1 device because they're such low risk. And I'm betting they don't require a 510K, so I'll say they're 510K exempt. But I might not know anything else other than those 3 pieces, and I might be guessing on 2 of them. So let's see what that gives me. Wow, it gives me 175 different devices. And on the first page now, I've got dental hand instruments instead of being on the second page. But there's a lot more devices now. If I want to look at all of them, I can actually look at all of them, and I can manually go down the list and try to find what I'm looking for. So you might, if you're looking at a more novel type of device, and you know that it's going to be in a specific panel of review, like, okay, this is a general hospital item, or this is an IVD product. Maybe it's for hematology, or maybe this is for urology. If you know the panel that's likely, that review panel that's going to look at it, and you know whether it's going to be a class 1 or a class 2 device based on the technological characteristics of your device, that can really help you find the right product code when you really don't know if there is even a code for it. So that I actually used earlier this week as a strategy for a new client with a very novel device. There was nothing like it on the market. I knew that, but I knew who the panel would be, and I knew what similar products were sold by competitors. So by finding out what their product codes were and their regulations were, I was able to find a potential predicate. It's not a done deal. I have to still submit something to the FDA to make sure they agree with it being a potential predicate. But my original assumption is there's not going to be anything that's even close as a predicate. So every once in a while, you surprise yourself. And in this case, it was a 1992 510K that had been filed for a similar device. And I think I can use that as a predicate. So every once in a while, you get really lucky in those advanced search terms. Look for like a lot of companies will use that advanced search function to look for a way to get around a 510K. They'll look for a class 1 device that's exempt, which is what this was, the dental hand instrument. But in this particular case, I knew I wanted something that was 510K cleared. So I was looking for product codes that are 510K required as the submission pathway, class 2, because I knew it would be something that was automated and had software and had some functionality that was sort of medium risk. So I knew it'd be class 2, I knew it'd be a 510K, and I knew it was in general hospital, and that's what I needed to find it. And I just had to go through the hundreds of items on the list until I found one that would work. And hundreds of items is searchable, even manually. Dozens, no brainer, really easy. But there are thousands of codes for the FDA, so you got to search it in a systematic way and narrow down your list. Let's pick another thing. Like, let's say I'm a company, I'm making biological indicators. So we're going to go back and we're going to search for that. And I haven't done this search in advance, so we'll see if it backfires on me, but it probably won't. We'll even do a quick search to start. For whatever reason, my mouse is not cooperating, but we will try. Biological indicator. Okay, so this gave me 9 results, so it all appears on one page, and it gives me chemical, liquid, biological indicators. It gives me biological sterilization process indicators. It gives me reading device. It gives me all kinds of different choices, but these are class 2s and class 3s. And these are sensors. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for one of these here, but we have one with indirect growth detection, indicator with recombinant DNA plasmids. They have a whole category for that now. Adjunctive use, that's not what we want there. That's completely something different. It's a glucometer. And then we have these two other more common biological indicators. But let's look at this recombinant DNA plasma one. That's the newest, latest, cutting edge. OWP is the product code. It requires a 510K. Here's the regulation number. It's class 2. And it is not GMP exempt, which you would expect. You would expect something with recombinant DNA and use moderate risk for a biological indicator. It's probably going to have quality system requirements for lot traceability, making sure the lot meets the performance requirements before you ship it out and release it. So a lot of requirements, labeling requirements. So it's going to be a class 2 device that requires a 510K. So that's how quick and easy that one was in the quick search. But it gave me 9 results. Now, if I looked up the same thing, if I go back to do a new search and I go under advanced search and I look under biological indicator, I should get fewer numbers. Yes, I did. I only got 4. So those erroneous results that were related to glucometers went away, disappeared. I'm only left with the 4. And you can see it basically is 3 different regulation numbers, all very similar. 2800 is the old one, and then these 2 are newer ones, 2805 and 2806. So the recombinant DNA one, that's very new, that was recently created, and the other 2 are the older ones, sterilization process indicators. So if you do an advanced search, sometimes you get lucky with a nice short list that gives you exactly what you want. But when you click on the records, it'll be the same record that you're looking at. Same one we looked at before. So that's how I find things. But I make heavy use of that this feature here, the review panel, picking which group. So if I were working on something for radiology, like a DICOM imaging system, that would be under radiology. They don't have a separate category for software. All of these could have software, but what is the panel? Cardiovascular device you have under here, but there could be software for that. Radiology, you could have software for that. Ophthalmology, you could have software for that. All these could have software. So just software is not a category. It's really organized by the part of the hospital that would use this. OBs, physical medicine, genetics, what part of the hospital, orthopedics, what type of doctor is going to use this device? That's how it's organized. That's one of the most important things to know about searching for things. Now, there's one more advanced tool that you can use that ends up being the strategy we use a lot. For instance, if I knew of a specific company that was making a product, so we're just going to pick, we'll pick one of the biggest companies in the world. There are basically 2 of the largest companies in the world that make sutures. U.S. Surgical and Ethicon are 2 of the biggest suture manufacturers in the entire world. So if I don't know what the code is for a suture, but I know who the company is, I can put in here U.S. Surgical, and I might know what a product is here. So I don't remember who owns the brand name Proline. It might not be them. It might be Ethicon. I don't remember. I think it's actually probably Ethicon, but we're just going to see what we get by typing in the product name here and see what we get. Didn't get anything. So I'm probably right that it's not U.S. Surgical. It's probably Ethicon. And then I'm going to put in proprietary name here, Proline. And voila, we got 6 hits, all for Ethicon, all for Proline Suture. And they have also Proline Mesh is another thing that's in there. So Proline Suture and Mesh is listed. But if I wanted to know, and probably I should have narrowed this down to suture, but here's a suture that's Proline. If I wanted to know what the pathway is for Proline Suture, I'm not going to be able to call it Proline because that's a brand name, but I can have it be the polypropylene non-absorbable synthetic suture. That's the general product code. So if I'm making a knockoff of Ethicon's Prolene suture, I would need to know what product code is. So it's going to be GAW is the code. When I click on that link, it tells me suture non-absorbable synthetic polypropylene, and then they word it slightly different on the regulation: non-absorbable polypropylene suture, surgical suture. It's under general and plastic surgery rather than general hospital. So things that are used more in surgery are general plastic surgery, whereas equipment like a table or a bed, chair, those are more general hospital. Like a wheelchair would be general hospital. Might even be personal use in there too. And then GAW is the product code. It requires a 510K. It has a regulation here, and it tells you that it's not GMP exempt, so you have to have a quality system for it. So that's how we find different pathways. You can either search by the product classification, or you can search, and when you do product classification, you can search by either the quick search or the advanced search, and you can also search in under the registration and listing database, which is where we started there. We were in establishment registration and listing. When you search through that database, it allows you to search by brand names. It allows you to search by company name. It also will let you pick the establishment type, so you can pick whether it's a contract manufacturer or an importer or whatever. So if you know who the distributor is that's importing a product from overseas, but you don't know who they're importing it from, that might be another way you can search for that. But there's a lot of different tools in the registration listing. If you can't find it with the product classification, I use the registration listing, and then once I've figured out what the 3-letter product code is, then I have exactly what pathway it's going to be. When you can't find anything, if you exhaust all your options, it didn't work under product classification, didn't work with in a quick search, it didn't work with an advanced search, you couldn't find a competitor, you did a Google search, couldn't find anything, then you might be forced into a situation where you either have to propose something to the FDA in a 513G and see how they respond, what they think it's going to be. So a 513G is actually called a classification request. It actually costs a little bit of money, but it's cheaper than your 510K is. And the FDA responds with an official form letter that says, this is what your product classification is, this is why, and they might even provide you with some advice on what you might consider as a potential predicate for your device based on the technological characteristics and indication for use that you're proposing. Unfortunately, with a 513G, you do not get the choice of saying, well, what if I change this? What would be the answer then? They say, why don't you submit another 513G and we'll tell you. So it's not you can negotiate with the FDA to come up with the answer you want. It's you decide what your instructions are, what the intended user is, what the indications are, and you provide that information to the FDA with a device description and draft user manual, and they'll give you what the classification should be in the pathway. So that's the expensive route. The way we did it just now works for most products. It's only the really novel products that require the other route. I hope that answers all your questions. Please share this with anybody that you know of that's struggling to try to figure out what's the regulatory pathway. Anybody that's starting a medical device company, they should know exactly what this is, come up with the answer, and then test it. Ask a regulatory expert if they agree or they found some mistake that you might have made, because it's easy to make mistakes if you're not trained on how to do this. And if you want us to do it, please contact us. Go to medicaldeviceacademy.com, and the contact us page has hyperlinks so you can schedule a meeting with myself or Lindsay Walker, our director of sales. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, before I go, Rick Stockton left some comments. I wasn't looking at my other screen. We're in luck. So Rick says, cool thing. In my lifetime as a mechanical device contract designer, I never use this site, and knowing what it is and the resources it contains can be a great resource. So he's absolutely right. A lot of people don't use this database. They rely on regulatory consultants to help them. But if it's a common device out there, it's often very easy to do these searches yourself. And you can be very confident if you know the competitor product, you'll be able to find a registration listing for that product. So Rick also says, when I need to keep my client informed about how to design change might affect his devices. Yeah, so it was just, he kept on, it's part of the earlier comment here that I'd read off. He went on to say a little bit more. So whenever you're thinking about adding a new feature to a device, or you're developing a new device from scratch, this should be part of that planning process right in the beginning when you come up with a regulatory pathway, not wait until you've already designed the device and then figure out what the regulatory pathway is. You don't want to find out that, oh, this is a PMA for this product. And that's happened to some of our clients. They came up with a new IVD test and they found out, whoops, that's PMA. We don't want to do that. So it's really valuable. Investors do look for, you've done a thorough job of the route to commercialization. You've documented it as a regulatory pathway. The other thing they'll look at is reimbursement. So that's a completely different topic that requires a completely different set of databases and different consultants that are experts in that area. But thank you very much for participating, Rick, and I'm glad you found this helpful. And please share it with other people that might need help. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.